As many of you know, or as you guys can probably tell by the books behind me, I am a pretty big fan of reading. However, I agree with Alex O'Connor when in one of his videos he said that he wasn't a fan of reading, but he was a fan of having read. Or at least I do partially. Because I do really like reading. I am a fan of it. However, what I am not a fan of is reading, but not being able to retain what I had read. So because of that, and because I wanted to continue doing something that I really enjoyed, I made it my quest to go and find ways for me to retain the knowledge and remember what I was reading. So this led me down a few different rabbit holes. Mainly I was going through YouTube and watching YouTube videos and trying to find the best tips from people on what they did to retain their knowledge. Some of them worked and some of them didn't for me. So what I did is I took the three main things that helped me the most from all of these videos I watched, and I began to implement them in my own reading, in my own note-taking. And what I found is that I have been remembering what I've been reading a lot better by doing these three things. And those three things I want to outline in this video today. So to get started, I want to show off this book right here, The Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser. If you'll notice on this, I have a lot of little sticky notes sticking out of here. That's my first tip. Whenever you find something in a book that is very important to you, put a sticky note in it. You can buy these cheap little tabs. I got like these for $1. There's probably 250 of them, I think, for $1 at Dollar Tree. You can grab big sticky notes and tear them and put them in there, or write on them and keep them in there full. You can just grab normal pieces of paper and stick it in there. Whatever you do, do something. When you come across a piece of information, a passage, something that really is important to you, that you really like, stick something in there. I do this mainly for things I know I'm going to come back to or have reference to. For example, in this book, very early on, there is the discussion of Psalm 82 and the Elohim, and why in Psalm 82 many translations translate the Elohim as gods. If there's only supposed to be one God, why is there multiple gods? To me, that was really important, especially for discussions and for retaining about how we're supposed to read the Bible. So I put that in there, and I recently have used it multiple times, and I know I just have to go one of those and find them. Whereas other places, maybe there's stuff that's important, but I haven't put a tab there. And so that's going to be my next tip. If you find something that is important, or if there's any piece of information, even if it's on multiple pages right next to each other, underline it. So I'll show you an example of this in my own writing, or my own reading. So here we can see, right here, I must have thought that this was pretty important because I put an underline here. As you'll see, I continued on to the next page. You'll see though there's not like a ton of other lines on here. There's right there, I have a section outlined on this page, but I don't have a ton of underlines. Why is that? Well, because making sure that you don't over underline is one of the most important things you can do. Please, when you are reading, do not underline every single thing that is interesting to you. That's not going to help you remember anything at all. It's just going to harm what you can remember. Instead, make sure that you are intentionally reading every single line, but underline and outline the things that are really important. What I personally do is something like this, is I'll put little markers on the sections that I think are important. And if there's something within those sections that is even more important to me, I'll add a line, as you just saw a little bit ago. This really helps me, and it also helps me when I'm just skimming the book to see, okay, I outlined this section. It must have meant that I really like this. I really thought this was important. So I'm going through everything again, I can circle it. So the third thing I have, before I have a little bit of a bonus one, which isn't necessary, but I think is good, the third tip I have is that when you are underlining, when you are reading, try to retain the knowledge that you do in a way that you can teach it to somebody else. Essentially what I mean here is that when you're reading, underlining, trying your best to remember something, remember it as if you are going to teach it to another person. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean it what I just mean, but I can take this even a step further. Do act like you're going to teach it to somebody. Take that book and make it, say, an outline, as if you're going to give a presentation on it, if it's something you really want to remember. You can even just teach it to yourself. Make a YouTube video about it. Do something. because when you teach something, you will remember it a lot better. For example, I currently have right down here a church history book and a history of theology, and an intro to theology book. What I'm doing right now is I'm actually teaching some of my friends the concepts of this book. I'm teaching them about church history, and I'm teaching them about historical theological thought from the other one. When you go to the early chapters of this book, when I just had gotten into underlining and such, you're going to see that it is everywhere. There's highlighters everywhere, underlines by pen everywhere, and it didn't help me at all when I went back through it to teach it to realize what was important, because everything was highlighted. That means I have to go through everything to get what was important. Whereas now, I underline and put in brackets and such the most important things, while the other things are left for maybe reference points or for context. But the most important things are either underlined or put into a section. And those are the things that I know if I'm going to go teach it to somebody, I need to include those and I need to remember those. Alright guys, the final little tip I have for you today, it's going to be a shorter video. The final tip I have for you today, the fourth maybe bonus one, that I'm not really including it in the three that I deem to be most important, which is those first three, is that at the end of a chapter or a section, write down a few things, maybe just 3 points of a summary of what you want to remember from that chapter. So I would get an example from this book, but this book actually has something kind of neat. And the reason I chose it is because I think it's a good example. In this book, he has section summaries. So it's not chapter summaries, but it's section summaries. And I have these orange markers here. Your summaries do not need to be this long at all. They do not need to be this long. That's a long summary. However, the main point is write it as Heiser wrote it. He's summarizing the main important points of the past 5 chapters. So yours can just be a couple sentences of the most important thing from the chapter you just read. For example, if I was reading C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity, the first chapter's on goodness, I could write down his argument for goodness. Say, his example about soccer or football. The fact is that we all go to play soccer knowing that there are rules, and he uses an analogy with that to explain how morality is objective in his opinion and how he's arguing for that. So if I was going to go through and remember that, I could write down that analogy, and that's going to help me to remember what that chapter is about, refresh my memory, and provide the rest of the context that surrounded it. It'll just refresh my memory, and that is very important. When you go back and read the section summaries within the Unseen Realm, it instantly refreshes what you have just read in those past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters, and really helps you. And that's not even something that you wrote yourself, which is shown to help you improve memory. That's just something that he wrote, the author wrote. So do that. Get a piece of paper, stick it in the chapter, at the end of the chapter, just quickly jot down the things you want to remember most in that chapter, the things that stuck out most to you, and a quick summary of it. And that will really help you to remember more. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Like I said, it's going to be a shorter one. I'm sorry I haven't had a lot of uploads recently. I got back from vacation and then it's been like a snowball of things happening, and so I'm trying to get back in the grind of it now, trying to make videos again because I really like it, and I'm just really trying to find the time for it. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope these tips help you. If you have any other tips, please leave them down in the comments. I'd love to read them. I'm really wanting to still learn how to remember more because it still can be a struggle sometimes. So anyways, thank you guys for watching again. Please like, comment, subscribe if you like the video. Again, leave any comments. I'll try to respond to everything I can. And again, if you have any other extra tips, please do leave those because I'd be really interested in hearing them. It could also help anybody else if you have your own tips. Alright, that's all I have for you guys today. I will see you guys later. Thank you for watching. God bless.